time, right, centuries, our shores of Africa has been attacked and pillaged as our people were enslaved or captured. Now, when this capturing was taking place, they would be shipping us, whether it's through India, whether it's to China, whether it's to Japan, whether it's to what they call the Middle East, whether it's to Europe. We were shipped, constantly shipped around. And at this time when this was happening, billions of us were dying. If we just look at the chattel slavery alone, just that one
Yes.
alone, and speak about how they took ships. This is their history. This is what they teach. I learned this at school. They put us on board ships, packed us like sardines in a can, and then they shipped us across. And on a ship, hundreds were placed on there, and hundreds would be thrown overboard. And at that time, plagues would be hit, diseases would be hit. So they were killing us constantly because they were trying to say, well, they wanted the strongest people. So with this happening, we've got to understand and look at it and say, well, okay, with this happening, and we was taken to different countries in Europe, we was taken to the Americas, and especially in America and to the Caribbean, and all of these places where we was taken and where we were stored in Africa, places in Africa like Gambia and Ghana, and in these places where they were shipping us from, they was constantly killing us.
Okay, sorry, put a plug right there.
You want to
Mother
stick it in?
Owen,
Go on.
I'd like you to jump in here because, again, when we talk Holocaust, people think moving from the continent outward through the Caribbean, through the Americas. Can we talk about what actually happened in continental Africa? Can you describe that Holocaust?
Well, Paul Montu is right on point because this Holocaust, see, this word Holocaust, the narrative around Holocaust was captured by the Jews. The Jewish people brought world attention to this word Holocaust. And the thing is, they assume that the entire world must only identify Holocaust to them. Mm-hmm. So they were able to advance the narrative around this word and the condition of what happened to their people. With failing or with intentional misrepresentation of the African experience when it comes to a Holocaust and how our people were mistreated, not just globally, but also on the continent of Africa. You're looking at an invasion, people coming into our lands and just destroying entire villages, like in the Congo, where Leopold went in and just did massive destruction. So this Holocaust, this mistreatment of a people, the killing and the raping and the kidnapping and the subjugation of an entire race of people allowed this trauma to be transferred to all of us, even though we may not have physically been there at the time. We are all experiencing this trauma epigenetically through our genetics. This has been stored in the memory bank of our people. So it's not like we don't need to talk about it because we weren't there. We were there. If we are on Earth today as melanated Black people, we experience the trauma of racism, white supremacy, because it impacted every single Black person on the continent.
Yes, okay. And on that note, in addition to the negative memories, because, you know, Dr. Philip Matthews talks about something happened to us. Besides the negative, is there a positive to us? Before the 1885 Berlin Conference, or before the 1400s and 1500s of slavery, who were we as Africans? Colin Montu?
Oh, as Africans, right? We were great people. You've got to look at, as my brother was just saying, for them to do what they did to us on the continent, they would have had to come and encountered us with a society that had everything that they were looking at for. Everything that you see that they tried to replicate within the European world, that's what we had. If we just take, people always focus on Egypt, but if we go over to West Africa and just take how we lived, that we had our priesthoods, we had our doctors, we had our lawyers, we had our street cleaners, we had everything that was needed. So when you say as a people, we were great people that was designing, creating, developing a lot of machinery, whether it be for focus for doing farming, whether it be for operations as dentists, whether it be for eye operations, even surgeries, and especially when it came to babies, we knew these. We were scientists. So as major scientists within Africa, when they came amongst us, they were wondering, wow, how these black gods, as the Romans philosophers spoke about us in the sense of Socrates and Plato and these speakers, these were those great black doctors or gods, as they call us in Africa, was developing and making things happen that the Europeans had no idea of how we did it until we taught them.
Yes, yes. And on that note, if we look at what we are presently taught, the miseducation, the control of the narrative, where we as Black peoples, we come from nothing, we're slaves, we are followers, not the creators. We're not taught that we are the cradle of civilization. How do we then bring this forward to today? Because there are many people who are educated and intellectuals who still hold this viewpoint, believe it or not. How do we bring it to today to say, this is who we are? Can you point to some of our BBs and Bobbers and some of the work that they have done to change this narrative? Brother Owen?
Who's that question directed to, sis?
To you, my brother.
Elder Owen, it's you. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, thank you. See, what we are doing with the Holy Cryptic Church every year when we celebrate African Holocaust Month, we are continuing the work of those that came before us. The Naim Akbars, the Elijah Muhammad, the Babatum Ray, the Francis Cress Welsing, the Marimba Annie, the Clonora Hudson Weems, the Marcus Garvey, Amy Jacques Garvey, all of these individuals that are part of an unbroken lineage of teachers that we call angels that brought a message that resonated with the freedom and the upliftment of the Black race. We are continuing that in these sessions that we're having. And why is this important? Because science now, over the past 25 years, there's been a lot of study into the development of the brain and what the brain goes through different experiences. And there's something called neuroplasticity, where the brain actually can create new pathways or new strategic points. It can create new parts of itself through relearning experiences. So what happens is when we constantly remember these great ancestors that were before us and their messages that they taught us, it allows us to recondition the brain so that now we have different responses, appropriate responses to what we as a Black people have gone through. When the Jews get together every Friday and they have their Shabbat, and they talk about their experience, and they read biblical scriptures that highlight their experiences and bring worth and weight to what they are in teaching their children. They are creating new neurological pathways on how they identify, resonate, and how they create a better future for their people. They don't run away from their story. They tell it over and over again because they understand that the brain will take that information and create another way of dealing with it. The problem we have is we want to run away from our Black authors and teachers. We want to go to what Harvard says or what these Oxford University, those individuals have to say, who are brilliant in their own right. But I want to learn about the Black experience from someone that has experienced similar things to me. I need to hear it from a Black mindset who understands what it is to be Black, what it is to understand and navigate how to move through a world that we don't control as far as having the upper management and being able to push things downstream. So being able to recall being able to retrace the past, that blueprint allows us to now identify what we're going through today. How do we take the things that were successful and implement it? And how do we reject or improve on the things that weren't so successful so that tomorrow our children can navigate into a world where they have the tools, the neuroplasticity, the mental framework and capacity to deal with these situations and navigate, which allows them to have a more elevated place in society and contributed to the world, whereby they have uplifted the race back to that greatness we experienced in the past. Sister, Kahumantu, can I be heard?
Yes, you can be, my brother. And with
Kahumantu,
adding,
what do you have to add to that? I mean, when you look
I
at
was
this
gonna, I was
whole
gonna
thing
say,
about these babies and barbers.
I was gonna say, right, adding to what you were saying there, and talking about the issues and how I was having a conversation with the people, and with this
Mhm.
conversation, with little things, for instance, we was just talking about music and how music, the love songs have changed. You just took that for a while. Our love songs have become sex songs, and our sex
Yeah.
songs is now changing the narrative of how we think, how we move, how we behave. And they've done it in every aspect of what we do. They keep moving the line. So we allow things into our realm of existence, and by allowing those things into our realm of existence, now somebody can change the narrative and get you to believe. What the idea I was looking at, when we were growing up and we listened to a love song, it was a love song singing about how much I love somebody else, how much somebody else loves you, and so forth. Now a love song is thinking about what I can do to you in bed, or I throw you on the floor. And if it's said decently enough, then it's a love song. But if it's said vulgarly, then what am I saying? Somebody's changing the way we think, the things that we accept, and that happens in everything. So within our religious way of thinking, we are now being taught to think about and having and believing that everybody is equal. And if everyone is equal, then when I see a white Christ or a white pastor or a white being person, a European person teaching me, I'm accepting that. That's okay. It's like you said, right? But when we see our own, if our own is not behaving, conducting themselves as they're expected to do by the European standard, then we're not qualified. But when you
Mm.
come now and you're talking in a way that means that I'm talking to my people because I understand what you've been through. Why? Because I've been through the same thing. I've suffered the same thing. I've
Right.
experienced the same thing. I can relate to you. We don't want to hear you because you're the same as me. How can you be better than me? Somebody's got us, some people's got a society's got a way has got us to not want to go any further and believe that this is enough. So
Wow.
Austin, can I be heard?
yes, you can,
The
sis.
master,
So the
yes, sister.
little
Okay,
things.
apologies. On that
So,
note,
Oh, all right.
can we look
okay.
at, because in the Bahamas, our experience is different. And it's hard to tell people we are going through a Holocaust because as far as they're concerned, we're in paradise. What do I say for the local Bahamian who's not necessarily experiencing the overt racism or an overt Holocaust? How do I make them aware? How do I make them remember that we are all one? Can you talk about the perhaps consciousness, the community of what we are going through?
Just like what Karl Munter was talking about. See, Naeem Akbar, Dr. Akbar taught us that we are not separated from the collective experience. See, that's Karas consciousness, is a consciousness that individuals of the same genetics, of the same experiences, they are able to tap into the same narrative. It doesn't matter if someone in the Bahamas or someone in Trinidad or someone in the UK or someone in Jamaica are not experiencing what other Africans or melanated people are experiencing and mistreatment. We are all connected because we, as our ancestors have told us, have all been a part of the traumatic experience. If it happens to one of us, it's happening to all of us because we are all interconnected. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions that we've been taught by the Europeans and our invaders, is that we are separate and apart. We see our personal success as an achievement. We see, I'm taking care of my family, our business is straight. We have lost the connection to the tribe and to the nation. So we think that because we are not physically a part of the struggles that are going on in other lands with our people, that we are immune to it. This is a global system of oppression. That's why they were able to take the blueprint and pass it all through the continents and the world about enslaving our people, because it's a system that can be duplicated, that they can take and implement that system anywhere on the planet and get the same results. So we have to understand that we may be separated from those incidences, but we are a part of that experience. And sooner or later, it will come to our doorstep because we are all under this global system of oppression. And the Karat consciousness allows us to tap within and to be able to identify with others that are going to have empathy with what they're going through. And now we are able to rise up, as the scripture tells us, and come out of with great substance so that we can help our brothers and sisters elevate. We got to stop this individualistic thinking. It's getting us nowhere. These people are banded together and created the European Union. They've created the United States of America. They've created synergies. They've created the G7 and the G8 and BRICS. They understand that they must come together in order
they
to
understand
see
unity and
success.
strength.
But what did they do to take our unity and strength? They divided our nations up in the Berlin Conference and separated us with different languages and made us think that our experiences are unique. We're all the same experience.
Do you mind if I jump in here for a second? May I, please? Okay. I know you mentioned Bahamas and in the sense of the Caribbean, and that would still be the same sort of program system that you find in Africa, but it's the same system here in the UK, meaning instead of it being a nation, the apathy is thrown on individuals, because it's apathy we're talking about, where all I care about is me and mine, right? And as long as it's not happening to me, it's okay. So once that's around us, and once they've made us overstand or see or believe in that system of apathy, right? Then we walk away. So we now have to say, you mentioned Karas consciousness. What is the Karas consciousness? It's a consciousness that allows us as Nubian Melanites to be able to see the scriptures through African eyes and understand that the scripture that we read, even though it's been translated, mistranslated, and given to us in a way to blind us, that we can now see that the reality within this. It's a way that we can understand our way of doing things, our culture, our consciousness, our way of life. It's that we can now make a link to the Most High and Nere, our link as Nubian Melanite. So when we're saying that Karas consciousness, which they sometimes call universal consciousness, that consciousness that all Nubian Melanite are now waking up to, or having an awareness of, we've got to understand that even though they're having an awareness of this consciousness, maybe they don't understand, because the same way how the devil manipulates us is the same way how they manipulate all the tools that come around them. So we've got to understand that if we don't embrace what is ours, see what is ours for us, and look at those scriptures like for what our possessions brought to the table, and given what our Bibis and Babas have brought to the table, given to us, that we don't read that and say, well, how is this going to benefit us and make us unite then we're going to miss the plane. I just want to throw
Okay.
that in. Sorry, sis, go.
No problem. Don't ever be sorry. Okay, Marimba Annie is what I call a cultural warrior. And like I said, she made popular a Swahili term, ma'afa. I just want to read a little bit of an excerpt. It says, the ma'afa disconnects us from our traditions. It is a consistent, systematic, ongoing attempt to separate people of African descent from our cultural foundation. A relentless psychic attack intentionally causes fragmentation and chaos in the existence of Africans on the continent, in the Americas, and the Caribbean. So when we talk about this system, how is it, or what is it that we're going to do to be able to conquer the system? I want to get very specific direction for the people that are listening in. And I want it in layman's terms. I know we are the intellectuals, but I want to use some common language so they know tomorrow when I get up, this is what I'm going to do. Starting with Brother Owen, give us some marching orders. What do we do to change the situation?
Well, the first thing we do is we look to what did our Bibis and Babas say? What made Marcus Garvey so successful? What made Elijah Muhammad so successful to be able to build organizations that still impact the world today, and philosophies and ways of thinking? And there is a common thread that runs through the messages of all of these Black, brilliant individuals that taught us, that wrote books and gave lectures and taught us how we could address these problems. One of the underlying themes is being able to come together. We must be able to find those communities like the Holy Coptic Church, like the Nation of Islam and others, where you can come together and be a part of an organization that's advancing the plight and the condition of Black people. You have to, you cannot achieve that alone in some corner of the world. You must come together and form communities of like minds with a clear blueprint on where we're going, with a leader that's guiding us and teaching us that you can follow this system because they are following the system of the leaders that came before them. So we got to come together in groups of individuals that have a clear purpose and vision for the Black people, for the Black race, for that community. And then that allows us to now be in an environment where we can be taught. Our pastor just told us in the previous segment that we have to be taught before we even can embrace those greatness of our past. So we have to be able to be in a position where the teaching is there, the right teaching that allows us to reshape our mental ability to connect with our greatness and our ability to be more willing to work together. See, it's hard to work together when you're still thinking like a European. You have to put that aside, and you have to be retaught. You don't forget what you've learned, as we are taught in the Holy Coptic Church. You use that with the new way of thinking so that you can advance and bring your skills to the table within the organization that has a blueprint going forward. And then that allows us to pool our resources to now identify what your strengths are so that the leadership can say, you are good in this area. We're going to use your experiences and your knowledge and your know-how to advance and align with this particular tentacle of the organization so that now we can move ahead. The Bible says, come out of her, my people. We have to come out of her mentally, spiritually, physically. We have to do what Dr. Neely Fuller says and become the masters of our own selves when it comes to those 9 areas of people activity that we call REL-CEL-WEP.
Yes, on that note, Pahamon too, because I was just going to bring up REL-CEL-WEP. Can you walk us through, and you don't have to do all 9 areas of human activity, but can you give us some specific examples of what success looks like for us? as melanated people.
Okay. Why do we use Royal Cell Web? Because our Baba Neely Fuller explained that this is the route that they did. They took our religion. They took our economic strength. I'm going to just talk it through little by little, right? They took our labor. They took, when we say Royal Cell, they took our sex, worked against us. I'm just touching it, then I'm going to go back in it. They took our education. They took the law and worked against us. They put war against us, entertainment and politics. They took all that and turned it against us. We've got to flip the chart, meaning we have a way as a people, as when you hear religion, you shut down. I was the same. And I'm sure a lot of people that's listening now for your first time, the minute you hear religion, you don't want to hear that because of what religion did to us. Not saying to yourself, well, if our Baba Henry Clark said to us, everything they taught us is a lie. Understand, believe that so that means the religion that they gave to you was a lie. So there must be a true religion. There must be a right religion. There must be that religion that will bind you, that will tie you to something, tie you to the Most High. That is what we call atonism today, right? By the Holy Cryptic Church. So if you embrace that religion will help you to gain economic strength. How? By allowing us to work together. The great Jewish people are doing it. They're working together, and they're making headways by what they do. I said we've got to use that same example and make headway. Create that labor force for each other and for those that don't have the strength to be able to do it, to make our way forward. We've got to understand that we've got to use that our sexual union as a strength, not let them play it against us, that we're all running around just saying, having casual sex as they want you to think it is. So everyone's running around having casual sex and they've got some sort of tablet that's going to take away the disease so you're okay. You can use a condom, you're okay. No, realize there's a strength in sexual union. These things you learn, right? Realize that we have to now be educated to do the things that we need to do in all aspects of life, right? And then we've got to now make sure that we influence and by our education get into the laws, study the laws, affect the laws, change the laws, and live by the laws of the scriptures. Because we have our laws, Matt, that we have our way of life. And by embracing that way of life, and every one of us living according to the laws of the Most High Heavenly One and our God and angelic host, and all of us knowing that if we walk along the path that the laws of the scriptures has given us, and if we respect that, it will be okay. We say to each other, Namastu. And sometimes we take that lightly when we say Namastu, because it means the divine in me, that means you're a divine being, bows to you because you're also a divine being. I'm acknowledging the divinity within you. That means now we all have to acknowledge that law of the scriptures that we live by. We're going to create entertainment that we call, I don't want to use the word fun, but yes, clean fun. Clean fun that we can enjoy, because life must have some enjoyment to it. And you know, if you don't, then people think, oh, you're just boring. No, we have fun. And then we got to influence the politics to make sure that we put those people in place that's going to help us. Because too often are we seeing the puppets put in place, whether it be in Africa or whether it be in Europe and whether it be in America, we see puppets of the Caucasians, of the Europe, of the Canaanites put in place, working on their behalf. Even though they look like us, they don't behave like us. So we've got to use that real cell web in order to guide ourselves and keep ourselves strong. And that is part of our mantra as the Holy Coptic Church of the Black Messiah.
I'm beautifully said. I want to look at two examples because we talk about unity being strength. And I want to show how this practically worked. In 1929, there was a lady. I think she was a widower, I remember correctly. But she was approached by the British Army because, of course, they wanted to tax. So they had asked her to take account of her sheep, of her people, so they could know how they were going to tax. And she's like, why are you coming to us? Was your mother counted? Which already showed her stance. She's not bowing to this. She then, because of her stand, motivated at its peak 25,000 other women to stand with her against this British system of taxation. And they gathered, they came from near and far, they surrounded the government, they sang warrior chants, they refused to move until this tax that they were trying to put in place was done away with. And the British soldiers came and they started firing. And I think 50 people died, but they refused to move. And because of that, they conquered. They were successful because they realized we're not going to win over the unity that these people are showing. Bringing it to the current day, what is going on in the Sahel region, I think is inspiring any and every Black person on the face of this earth. Ibrahim Traore is the name that we know, but there are others who are standing up. And if we look at what he is doing, there is just no way that we can't think that we can't win. So, Brother Owen, I guess in our closing words, because we're about to wrap up, can you give me what your thoughts are, what our future looks like as melanated people?
Thank you. Well, the future is actually the way we create the future is we have to retrace the past. We are taught in the Holy Coptic Church that we must retrace the past. How can Abraham Traore create an environment, a nation that is pushing against colonialism? He looked and retraced the past. He was able to look at a Thomas Sankara and say, these are the things that he wanted to institute for our people. Didn't get a chance to come. I will pick up his work and continue it. Why is the Holy Coptic Church one of the most progressive Black faith-based organizations in the world? Because we are picking up the mantle of other faith-based organizations and advancing on it, bringing it into a modern era, holding on to those traditions that made us great in the past, but we must be able to see greatness, to duplicate greatness. We have to borrow strength until we can achieve our own strength. See, liberation and transformation is a present activity. It takes a now mentality. We must transform now. The future is now. Tomorrow is today, because the things I do today will manifest tomorrow. So tomorrow begins to improve when I begin to improve in the now, the present, today.
Yes.
So to get the future we want, we must look at the successes and the fingerprints. We call it in this organization, the pieces of the puzzle, the babies and barbers. We are not here propagating and sharing anything new. We are not speaking of our own accord. We are speaking and emphasizing the words of the proven doctrines and teachings that have stood the test of time to our babies and barbers. They have done the hard work. We are taught that we must only pick up the mantle and advance that thought today. So we could guarantee our success when we do the things that Elijah Muhammad did to build an organization. When we see what Marcus Garvey did when there was no internet and there was no way to, no Facebook and no texting, and it Great Depression, that was able to put people to work, that were able to control their own food, that were able to control their shipping, and they had hospitals and teachers and professionals that were able to put that skill to the benefit of their people. That's the blueprint of success. That's what our capabilities are. So we have to know what the past is. We have to know the greatness of the past so that we can understand our potential. But we must also look at what didn't work so we can understand and know the roadblocks and the hiccups and the things that could potentially destroy our success. So paying attention to the past allows us to implement. We're going to win because we're going to follow the blueprint of those that came before us who won. And that's why this organization is so important. That's why this month, African Holocaust Month, is so important. It's not just to continually live in a moment of Holocaust, but it's also about living in the greatness of our past and understanding how these experiences cannot be ignored or pushed to one side. They must all be looked at in an environment where you have the teaching and the coaching and the mentorship and those of the profession that can guide us through managing the trauma and managing these and identifying why we're having issues, become more aware of who we are as an individual. And now I can bring that healing to the group and advance myself and my family through this group activity. And that's what we hope to achieve during the month of African Holocaust.
Thank you, Elder Owen. And Kahumontu, I'm allowing you the last word. Why atonism?
Why atonism? The word itself says why atonism. Why at oneism? That itself explains. But for those that don't understand, let me take it this way. When you're simply saying at oneism, you're saying all that has been said, as my brother said a while ago, that's been said by all the other Bibis and Babas, by all the other speakers, by all the other religions, or by all the other cultures, all of those. Our teacher did a course a year and a bit ago about pieces of the puzzle, where we took various authors and took writings and we read them and he put them in and he dragged them so that you could see what parts we needed. It's that point, and it has to be within a certain time. When that time is now, when that time brings all of this together. It's not an accident that we're here now. It's not an accident that at this day and time we have access to all the information via internet or whatever the case may be right now. It's not an accident that we're here. It's not an accident that our teacher's here. Right? It's not an accident that all of this is happening and he's putting all of these writings together. We, as atonism, are uniting, if you like, all of the false religions, taking out of them what they took from us and put it back as oneism, at one, so that atonism and the true Nazarenes, the watchers, can come forward. Why us? Because when you join us, right, you learn everybody else's stuff and some in order for you to not get caught up in the mistakes or the false doctrines out there. And so when people see us studying everybody else's religion, everybody else's culture, everybody else's dogma, they think we're just studying it because, oh, we just want to be better than them. No, we're studying it because we're trying not to make sure that we fall in those pitfalls. We're trying to make sure that we can see the truth in there so we can take that out of that. We can take that from Islam. Let's put that back where it belongs. We can take that from Hinduism. Let's put that where it belongs. We can take that from Christianity. Let's put that where it belongs. We can take that from the Jews and Hebrew. Let's put that where it belongs. We can take that from Mason. Let's put that where it belongs. We can take that from Shrineism. We put that back where it belongs. We can take that from all of these other religions. So he did those 12 courses around each religion around the planet, and he put back to the center at oneism, atonism. The cooked, the holy cooked, the center point. Everything has to come back to the center. When the wheel spins, it has a center point, and the wheel is spinning around that center point. We are that center point. We are the point where we've taken everything back here and we're explaining it. Our teacher, Aru Teptar, or Dr. Amadou Varma, has taken the time for us to learn these things so that we can now be able to converse with everyone else. Why atonism? Because atonism is going to set us back on the path of righteousness.
Thank you so much, my brilliant brothers. And for those who were listening in, I just want to leave you with Sankofa. We're going to go back. We're going to fetch. and we're going to come